In the cassava market value chain, there exist two main players, the smallholder farmers and the agro-processors, often referred to as off-takers. They are called so because they take off the cassava roots from the farmers at the point of harvest. In an ideal situation, the agro-processor signs a contract agreement with small-scale farmers to buy up all their farm produce at the point of harvest, thereby removing the burden and heavy cost of running large-scale farms to feed their processor plants. This is a widely practiced model known as contract farming. As noble as this model is, the Business Innovation Facility discovered several constraints suffered by both the agro-processor and the small-scale farmers. Because these small-scale farmers often lack proper inputs like adequate seeds, fertilizers, and technical know-how, they end up having poor yields with very low standards during harvest.
The challenging we face, we know even mount am saying a challenge before, because we dey do am as normal as we meet our forefather they do.
I've been farming since I was young, more than 40 years ago. We do it with our own human efforts. That is challenge. We weed instead of chemical. We weed, we teed, we clear on our own.
The agro-processor, on the other hand, often tries to provide these inputs for the farmers in order for them to meet standards. This comes at a very huge cost and burden for the processor since they are not set up to do so originally. Plus, there is also the risk of the farmers dishonoring the contract and selling their produce to someone else on the side.
Beef came up with a business model which I will call outgrower scheme business model. The outgrower scheme business model is basically to address these three problems by providing aggregating function of inputs, access to inputs, know-how, coordination, and logistics.
To solve this constraint, the Business Innovation Facility developed a model that introduced two new partners into the cassava value chain. FADAMA, a World Bank-funded agric program responsible for providing for the farmers adequate inputs like improved seeds and fertilizers, and Synagos, an international non-profit responsible for coordinating and training the farmers on best practices in order to meet up with standard quality and quantity for the off-taker, and most importantly, ensuring farmers honor their contract with the off-taker at the point of harvest.
The FADAMA came in to enlighten us, to encourage us, and to help us. And Synagogue, they introduced, and FADAMA, they team up. They are the one that open way for us. They train us, and they give us STEM and fertilizer, chemical, sprayer, boots, wheelbarrow. They supported us.
Synagos is a global non-profit organization that seeks to solve complex problems of poverty. In Nigeria, our focus is on agriculture, solving poverty through agriculture. So we had about a total of 338 farmers for over 340 hectares. Synagos trained some persons from that community, and I can say to a large extent that goal has been achieved. How? An MOU was signed, and earlier this week, harvests took place at one of the cluster farms, and Crest Agro was there to take from these farmers. In this way, in this manner, the farmers have have a readily available market, and at the same time have increased and improved livelihoods.
The income of small-scale farmers have grown dramatically as a result of this intervention. Before, small-scale farmers could only harvest about 7 tons of cassava per hectare, but now, with access to improved seeds, fertilizer, and technical know-how, they're now able to harvest up to 20 tons of cassava per hectare.
The experience is great improvement because in our local variety, when you uproot, you can see 1, 2 tuber. But this one, you can see 12, 13, 14, 15 when you uproot 1. So the difference is so clear.
Then also processing these cassava peels into livestock feed has given them an additional source of income.
To ensure that the women farmers are able to sell their grits to big feed companies, which was a huge constraint, the Business Innovation Facility partnered with the International Livestock Research Institute, ILRI, a subsidiary of the International Institute of Tropical Agriculture, IITA, to provide certification for service providers who would be responsible to train the farmers to process their grits to meet quality standards required by the feed companies.
That is an innovation that has created wealth among the microprocessors of cassava.
You know, sir, this one be now. I can't carry one and say I dash person. You know, it's before I go say, hey, go there, go carry 1, 2 line. Of blue time, carry them, they go. Before. But now, we can't do so. Then we see say that one when we carry out the last time, I say now money will go through it. Even most of our people, some buy motor, some breed house.